Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining. We haven't held one of these sessions for a long while, so we're excited to get back on here virtually. If you've joined before, you'll have heard this spiel before. If you're new, my name is Alex. I'm one of the owners of Mountain Trek. I will be in the background during this session playing, like I said, Wizard of Oz. So if you have any technical issues, just email me. If you have any questions, feel free to put it into the chat. If you do want it to be anonymous, send it to me directly and I'll get it asked anonymously. Otherwise, there will be a more open Q&A towards the end of tonight, so feel free to save your question till then if you wanted to ask it live yourself. That's all for me. So without further ado, I will hand it off to Kirk and Katya to discuss all things that are new and exciting for this season at Mountain Trek, which is our 35th year. So thank you, Kirk and Katya. I'll let you take it over from here.
Thanks, Alex. Welcome, everybody. And you might want to put your screens on so that people can see each other's faces because you can't always tell by the names there who's who, because there's always been lots of Christines and then that way you might see somebody from your cohort that was with you a year ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago. It's always a great thing to see other fellow mountain trekkers together. So welcome everybody and happy spring. Katja?
Yeah, it's so great to see everybody, even people that I just saw in Portugal. And yeah, and new and faces that I haven't seen in a few years. So it's lovely to do this. It's always a nice way to sort of connect us with everybody before we start opening up our doors and having the real thing happening here, which we start next weekend. So thank you for warming us up and warming our hearts by being here with us today. It's great to see you all.
So like Alex mentioned, we're suspecting that all of you saw the newsletter, else you wouldn't have got this video link to Zoom. We're just going to go through, Katja and I go through a little bit of what's new at Mountain Trek this year, and then maybe if you have questions, you can ask us or Alex after we go through a little overview of the new events at Mountain Trek. So the first one we wanted to talk about is the new fitness class that we're going to move into the afternoon on Tuesdays because for two reasons. One, we want to add a longer hike on Tuesdays. Popular request from everybody over the last 2 years is that people would like to get one more hike besides the Friday hike being a longer hike. So we're going to, when we go across on the ferry to hike on that side of the lake, we'll stay out and catch a later ferry back. And then that evening we'll have a TRX class. Now, not sure how many of you were working on TRXs back in the 80s and 90s, but I decided to get one this fall. And I got Lee, our kinesiologist, to come up with a training program for me. And I've got a TRX that I've hooked up into my tiny house, and that's my personal gym. And so then Lee and I were telling Katja about it, and Katja thought, "Whoa, that could be a fun throwback." So she said, "Let's go for it for the gym." So Katja, why don't you tell them the benefits?
Yeah, so we have all of these wonderful new TRX hanging in the yoga studio now, and we talked about sort of a variety of ways to approach it, and one of the things that we discovered last year, actually, when we started to incorporate the vision boarding class, which was new last year, was that people were feeling there was this social connection, there was this play. And you guys remember when you come to Mountain Trek, it's not a lay by the pool with cucumber on your eyes sort of experience. It's hard work. And so it's nice to have an aspect that is more playful. And we got a lot of positive feedback about that class and people saying, this is really fun and we want to do more of this. We want to be a little bit more playful. So we thought we would bring that aspect back into the program and add something that was sort of a continuation of that. And so we thought, okay, well, how can we make this even more fun than just, just a really lively class? And so we added this sort of throwback component. So I even, we've got neon headbands. We've got 80s and 80s music playlists happening. And Lee is really, really excited to sort of add this more playful, fun component. And of course, you guys know me. I always like a good workout. So it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be, a good, strong core workout, upper body focus, but then playful and fun as well. And I mean, in terms of the science, we know that when we do things that activate that play system, we get all sorts of wonderful hormones into the body. We get things like dopamine, which is, involved with our reward cycle. This boosts motivation, pleasure, and connection. We get things like endorphins. And the great thing about endorphins, I mean, we can get that through exercise, but it's even more so when we are involved with play with exercise. And when we get endorphins, we actually reduce pain in our body. So that can be really wonderful. And then we see those traditional reductions of things like stress hormones and cortisol. So all of that will sort of adds to the why behind play, which I think, as kids, you guys remember we used to play all the time. So it's really good for us to get back into that. So we're adding that piece in this year, which I'm really excited about, and I think it'll be super fun. I can't wait to attend with my neon tights.
With your
Yes.
neon tights.
Yeah, you
Sure, I
bet.
want to see that. Katya, what about the food side of things? Do you want to talk a little bit about some changes to the menu, some changes
Yeah,
to
yeah.
focus?
We've been playing around with the menu quite a bit over the last few years, and we had so many favorites, but we thought it was time to sort of keep developing them. One of the things that we again introduced last year and was such a huge hit was, I mean, I know you guys always love the soups; they're such a huge hit, but we decided to add in a salad last year, and we're going to actually add another one in this year that focuses more on sort of, artisanal grains, smoked salmon, fresh herbs, that kind of thing. And then we're leaning a little bit more into sort of continuing to build that fiber content into all of our meals. So we know that fiber helps gut permeability and insulin, sensitivity and all of those wonderful things that we get when we eat fiber. So we're leaning into that. We've got even things like warm Moroccan dips, and we're playing with a Jamaican jerk meal. And so there's all sorts of worldly flavors that we're bringing in with this sort of backdrop of leaning into heavy fiber and anti-inflammatory ingredients. So another change that we're going to be playing with this year is changing up our smoothies a little bit. So having a little bit more of a focal point of anti-inflammatory properties on those, which will be fun. With sort of historically, we've done a little bit of the same thing day to day, but this year we're going to sort of try and create more variety from day to day, with each chef having sort of their specialty that they're really excited about being able to offer and get creative. Um, and so, yeah, I'm really excited. I know you guys have been asking about the cookbook, so I'm sure that's going to be coming up in those comments. And because we continue to adapt and play with these recipes, we just need a little bit more time. So when we don't have a cookbook that will be coming out this year, most likely, if we get these recipes really dialed in this year and get great feedback, then we're working on that probably to be releasing by the end of next year, so 2027. So you guys got to keep coming, and we'll keep feeding you, and we'll keep developing these recipes, and then we'll build in that cookbook as soon as we can, as soon as it's ready. So we're working on it. It's a work in progress.
We
So
do we do have a small update on the cookbook, and it didn't make it into the last newsletter because our newsletters tend to get quite long. So we were going to save it for next newsletter, but since we're on the topic, Mountain Trek's guest care or marketing manager Priya, who's on this call with us tonight, she's been working to get a Amazon published version so that anyone in Canada can get a cookbook without having to pay import fees. One thing we totally dropped the ball on when creating our first cookbook was thinking about the cross-border shipping. And we went with a publisher that had really good reviews and was in the States, and we didn't think about it until our Canadian friends started buying these cookbooks and telling us there's a $40 tariff on it. The downside is that Amazon in Canada only does soft covers. So it's available. It's a soft cover edition, so it's not quite as rich as the hardcover that we have available to ship in the States. So if anyone wants to get that link, let me know, or I'll put it in the chat. Or Priya, maybe you could put it in the chat. Also, if you're in the States and do want a soft cover, you can order that from Amazon, as well as the hardcover, which is through a publisher called BookBaby. So a little bit of an update. All the recipes are still very relevant. It will be exciting to launch Cookbook Volume 2 in the future. Um, but I think that the current cookbook is still quite relevant. And if you have it, the last recipe is my favorite. It's a mousse. It's a chocolate mousse. It's
Of course.
Reverend John.
So then the next topic that's new for us is we have been getting more and more interest to have, like I mentioned, the longer hikes. So we decided this year to do a test pilot and offer a 1 week Alpine Trek week, which will be a non-programmic reset week, more of an adventure trek like we do with Katja taking people to Madeira or to the Amalfi Coast. This is going to be really get up in the morning, have yoga, eat a big breakfast, and then head out for the higher elevations, more elevation climbs, longer hikes, but also longer drives to get there because we have to drive up forestry roads to get high enough to start the hikes to go up towards the peaks and up onto the ridges into the alpine flowers and meadows. So that week's going to be the very last week of July. And because it's not to take that time for the longer drives and the longer hikes, we won't have our health lectures, and we won't have evening activities other than massage to keep everybody moving. But for those of you that have always struggled with the caffeine, take, curtailment during our reset program, which we do, of course, to lower cortisol during this program. The Alpine Trekking Week is not a body composition changing week. We are not worried about cortisol. In fact, maybe you need that little pep in your step from the caffeine to help you get up those extra thousands of feet of elevation gain. So there will be coffee at breakfast on that week. And if that's a big deal breaker for you for Mountain Trek and you'd love to come to Mountain Trek because there's going to be coffee, unfortunately, we're sold out this year. So if it all goes well and we get the great hikes and everybody's happy with the more elevation, longer distance, steeper climbs, then we'll probably offer a second week next year and do 2 weeks. So this is our test pilot this year. Anything you want to add to that, Katja?
No, other than I know the guides are all super excited about it. I mean, these are the hikes that the locals are, they do, and so we're thrilled. I mean, it's a gift to be able to get up into those places. Not a lot of people in the world get into these really remote locations that are so high and beautiful and stunning. And so, yeah, I think I can speak along with the other guides that we're just really excited about it. Yeah.
And I can tell you that's the reason why most of us live here.
Hmm.
We go to those places, and that's where our hearts sing.
Hmm.
So, yeah, we would only take people fit enough to do group 1 and 2 regular program capabilities because of the distance, the time, and the elevation gain and loss as well. So that takes us to Yin Yoga.
Yeah. So we're reincorporating our yin yoga this year, which we've had in years past, and then we sort of constantly changing the program, and we're bringing it back because sleep continues to be something that our guests are seeking to improve in their lives. It's a big reason why many people come here. And we just feel, well, the science shows that yin yoga in particular, those sort of slower forms of yoga can be so beneficial for things like helping to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which of course we know helps with that down regulation that we need for sleep. It helps not only with sleep onset, but the depth of sleep, so we can start to get into that deep healing sleep where we can do a lot of that brainwashing and repair in our body. So we felt it was important to revisit, so we're adding it back in this year. For those of you that have never done yin yoga before, it's different than traditional classical hatha yoga in that the poses are held for longer, so you have more of longer hold times, generally with more supportive equipment like bolsters and things like that. It's a focus on slow diaphragmatic breathing, and of course, there's sort of meditative component as well. And so by combining those things, you start to really, not only does the body sort of start to downregulate, but the mind does as well. And I know for many of us, we're overstimulated, and we tend to be, feel like the button's always on in our brain, which is a lot of the time why people even come to Mountain Trek, is they just want to be able to switch off. And wanting to do something is one thing, but actually having a channel into the body to actually actively turn that circuit off can be really useful. The breath can be a gateway to that. And so even if it's just 50 minutes, resting and letting the body lengthen can be a communication system with the body. And as some of you, I remember teaching yoga when I taught yoga here many, many years ago. It's a great love of mine. But you guys remember when you were in the classes that we talk a lot about that, about how, it communicating as we start to lengthen the breath, we can actually see things like muscle fibers soften and lengthen. So it really is a two-way system. When our breath gets upregulated, when we start to shorten our breath, our muscle fibers actually contract as a result of that, because it's helping you to spring into action. So we want those sort of low, long breathing patterns, and yin yoga is so, so good for that, as well as we start to get the lengthening and all of the benefits to the body that help us to prepare for hiking and to recover from some of the hiking that we've done. So I'm really excited about adding more yoga. You know me, there can never be enough of that. And I think it will just help to continue to support our wonderful guests with getting that nice, deep, nourishing sleep. So yeah, I'm so excited about this year. I think we've got, we've been doing this, like Alex said, for 35 years. We have such a good, wonderful, deep program that, Kirk built over so many years. And so now it's fun to be able to do these small tweaks every year. And a lot of that is really because of you guys. You give us such wonderful feedback every year. And so much of the things that we do, I hope you guys know, are really inspired by you. They're not sort of us just following fads. It's really us listening to you and saying, okay, what are you guys really needing? Or what were you enjoying? Or how can we keep giving you more of the same or enhancing that program? So thank you for your feedback and for giving that to us so honestly and openly every year, because that's how we continue to, improve, hopefully, the program and offer you something new every year. So
So,
we'd love to hear from you guys. So if anyone has any questions, they could be about the updates, but they can also be about, anything that you think we might be able to offer a little bit of insight or help. Kirk and I would be happy to answer. So go ahead, and you could either put it in the chat or you could unmute yourself and ask, or whatever you'd like.
I'm going to kick it off, Katya, with the question of what's the difference between yin yoga and restorative yoga?
So restorative yoga really relies on the support of props a lot more. So restorative yoga would be like, imagine you've got 3 or 4 bolsters, blankets, and blocks supporting you. And it's a little bit more, I would say it's more passive, where you're really supporting and cradling the body in different positions. Yin yoga, for example, you might do a long forward fold, and you may or may not add support into that. And it's more of the length of the hold time is going to be generally much longer, with that focus of the breath easing you into a slightly less active position, or a less passive rather position. Whereas restorative yoga is really about propping the body up and holding you in those positions where you just get to rest. Yin yoga, you're more shaping your body into it with less support of blocks and equipment and a little bit more breath control. I mean, they're very, very similar. I love them both. And we've done both in historically here. We did restorative yoga, I think it was 2 years ago. But we felt like yin yoga was a little bit more supportive for sleep. And for some people, I have to say, for some people that sitting is and being still is hard for some of us that are, active super strivers, then sometimes actively engaging in something can be almost less stressful, like when you've got something to do, even if it's just you're going to focus on your breath and hold something for a long time, as opposed to just sort of laying back. So for some people, restorative yoga can just be a little bit too challenging for them to truly drop in, and yin yoga gives them a little bit of a job to do while they're breathing in it. So I kind of think about it like that.
And so for the evening guided relaxation sessions, which I believe are 6 nights,
Mhm.
what is that mix? And can you explain to potential first-time guests why we have them, how they balance the rest of the day.
hmm So, yeah, every day we have our activation set or parasympathetic activation sessions at 6 p.m. And so we're starting the week with yin yoga. And that the reason that we sort of front loaded the front of the week with that was because um, so many people, we want that sleep regulated right from the very beginning. We don't really want to wait until the very end to sort of start focusing on that. So we have our sleep lecture on Sunday to sort of start that educational component. And then we put it into play right on Sunday night with the yin yoga, because we just feel like it's really helpful to sort of help people to downregulate and sort of, trigger into that sleep mode right from the very beginning. Then on Tuesday, we have our sound healing, which again is really, really amazing for us to drop into the body and to land a little bit. And our wonderful facilitator Noemi has been doing that. She also does the biofield tuning, which is fabulous. Those independent sessions with individuals. So that continues to sort of like slowly titrate in that down regulation, that feeling of safety and relaxation, because a lot of people arrive and it's you're arriving to a place that you've never been before. It can be a little bit scary. You signed up for a program that you're not too sure what's going to happen to you. And so even though you're here to relax, for some people that can be a little bit stressful. It can be a little bit scary the first time. And so being able to have that sort of slow introduction and kind of be really cradled in your nervous system at the beginning of the week can be really, really helpful. Um, so that is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I need to pull up my cheat sheet here. Wednesday, or no, then sorry, that was on Monday. On Tuesday, we've got the TRX class. And then on Wednesday, we have our breath work. And breath work is something new that we introduced last year. And it's something that Kirk and I did in the winter before, and it was so incredibly powerful. We found it just really, really transformative, both of us as individuals, and we've kept up the practice. And we thought it would be really, really amazing to add into the program. We very purposely put it in the middle of the week because it requires people. It can be very cathartic and very moving, and we wanted people to have time to sort of settle into the program before they went into that experience that can be really opening for some people and really moving. So it's good to be able to sort of be settled into the program. And we also wanted them to have time to integrate that work that's been being done in that big Wednesday class. It can be really yeah, moving and strong for some people, and you can really, start to shift some patterns. So having that integration period after Wednesday is really, really important. We didn't want to kind of put that at the very end of the week or at the very beginning. Um, then on Thursday evening, we have our vision boarding class. So that really is about sort of starting to formulate some of these ideas, sort of getting into the left and the right hemispheres of the brain, where we start to think about, okay, what is it going to look like as I move home? What are the values that I want to, what's most important to me? And using that sort of creative aspect to get a visual landscape of what it might look like, what's really drawing you to create those changes in your life that you're going to be taking home. And then on Friday, we have our violin farewell Tonewood concert, which is with Natasha, which if you've had the pleasure, I mean, all of the people that do this work, they're all so amazing. I know I say that about all of them, but they really are special. And Natasha does our forest bathing on Wednesday with us. Which is another component of the program, which is beautiful. And so she sort of ties in this forest bathing with her amazing violin concert that she does and creates this beautiful experience called Tonewood, where she's drawing in your sensory immersion sort of experience of what do you smell, what do you taste, what do you see, and interplace that with all of the different woods of the violin. And it's very difficult to explain until you've actually experienced it, but it's really incredible. And she's an extremely high level world class violin player. And so she closes out the week with this beautiful concert. So that's sort of the arc of those, and why we put those different things in. And that's sort of a celebration at the end of the week. There might even be something a sweet treat involved in that one for the end of the week celebration. So yeah, when we develop these things, we're not sort of just plopping them in. We really are kind of thinking about curating the week. A lot of that is just about really helping to support the body to really drop into the program and do the work that we're trying to do of lowering inflammation and increasing vitality and all the things that our program really is focused on.
Thank you, Katya. For everyone, I put a link to the guided breathwork introduction that we held last year. So if you are curious about guided breathwork, get an introduction to it and go through a short practice, there's a link in the chat for that.
Right.
A couple more questions here. The yin yoga, will it take place of the group exercises? So that sounds like perhaps an old guest who had attended when we had evening fitness classes. So maybe you could chat a little bit about how we've shifted that schedule and why.
I don't know that I totally understand the question. So was it that when is yin yoga? Is that?
Yeah, they were asking if it's going to take place of the fitness classes.
Ah, okay, thank you. So no, the fitness classes that we're doing now are on Sunday afternoon. So again, a feedback point from you guys over the years was that, oh my gosh, I don't want to have to, have dinner and then go immediately and go work out. And so what we did was we rearranged it so that we could add those fitness classes into the afternoon. So on Sunday and on Thursday afternoon, we have the fitness class. So those are still happening. And then, of course, the TRX class. So still have the three fitness classes a week, but they're no longer after dinner. So our after dinner is really about focusing on that sort of rest and digest mode that we really want to be doing most of the time, which is, rather than sort of upregulating our system, let's again support the sleep. So that's why we shifted that around.
Great, thank you. Are there any new lectures or educational content this year?
I can answer that. The reason why we have a limited amount of lectures is because they cut into hiking time. And as it is right now, we're almost sandwiching every day's hike with either a morning lecture or an afternoon workout class or an afternoon lecture. So our content is pretty full. We're covering as much of a holistic coverage of all the components of health from our perspective. And the only thing that we do is upgrade content as more research comes out. But typically, we're pretty much covering sleep, nutrition, detoxification, body composition changes, stress management, work life and retirement balance, habit formation. What else?
Menopause.
Menopause is a new one from last year. So we're covering as many of the touch points for holistic health as we can. We could fill the whole week with lectures, but then people wouldn't get out on the trail.
Mhm.
Speaking of getting out on the trail, I've had a couple potential new guests inquire about the average daily hike, how long, how much elevation gain. So perhaps you could touch on that. It's a broad question given that we break our guests into four guided groups, but perhaps a quick summary on how long, how high we go, and why we break guests, and what our goals are while we're hiking.
Sure. For new guests, basically our 15, 16 guest maximum is a bell curve of fitness capabilities with 1 to 3 people who could be marathoners, 1 to 3 people who haven't had a chance to be active in quite a long time, and the majority of the people in 2 other groups in the middle. So we have 4 cardiovascular breakouts, each led by a guide. And people aren't stuck in those groups for the week. They can move forward into the groups as their fitness increases, their cardiovascular fitness gets better, or their knee might get tired and they go back a group one day to give it a little rest. Or depending on the goal for why you're coming for the reset, we have people that are the fittest of the 16 people hiking the slowest group all week because they're there for grief. They just lost a parent. So it's based on your personal goals, but the caveat is you have to be fit enough to be in the group to go for around 3 hours. So some of our hikes will go up to 4 hours. Some of them are as low as 2 3/4 hours, but they shift through the year based on seasonal trails. And we try to mix between undulating trails and zigzagging up for till lunch and zigzagging down on switchbacks, which is harder typically on knees. We front load the beginning of the week with easier hikes, and the hikes get more difficult as everyone gets fitter towards the end of the week. Back to the group fours, the 4 different groups. The fittest group might go 12 to 16 kilometers in a day. The group that's just getting back into fitness might go 4 to 6 kilometers in a day. So we can't say how much elevation each group is going to get or the distance they're going to go because it's different for each group. All groups are out for the same amount of time. So we drive together as a group to a trailhead. We go to a different trail 6 days of the week, and that affords different experiences in the ecology of the area. And some, some of them you don't go far, but you're going up, 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 and then down, 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 down. So distance can be further when we're just undulating than it can be if we're just climbing all the way up and then coming all the way back down. None of our trails are flat. We are not prairie trek. We're truly mountain trek. So you can count on even the undulating trails rising up 80 feet, down 60, up 40 feet, down 50, rolling through forests over creeks along lakeshore, or as the summer progresses and we get into the higher alpine, then we climb up to get into the alpine and climb back down after.
Kurt, could you elaborate a little bit on how we've evolved to offer flow trekking, or what is flow trekking, and the goals of staying in a zone two area, zone two state?
Sure. Um, we started forest bathing midweek about 5 years ago now. Was it Katja? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And the feedback we got from the people who were taking that midweek down-tempoed sensorial integration mindfulness experience was that they weren't seeing, hearing, or smelling things on the trail. All they were doing was seeing the heels of the guide in front of them and breathing so loud that there could be the howling of a coyote and they'd never hear it. They were doing their best to push hard at the upper zone 3 level, where we used to wear heart rate monitors. Some of you remember that. We used to do talk tests, and we would be checking that everyone's perceived rate of exertion was 7.5 to 8.5 in that zone. And after we were told by our guests, again, like Katja said with the comment sheets, that all these years they've been coming, they've never seen an animal, never smelt a flower, never had any experience really in nature. Katja and I both were shocked because as guides, we're paying attention to all of that, and we think all the guests are, but really when we started to realize that the guests' heads were down and they were just striving as hard as they could to keep up with the guide on each of those four groups. So we decided to do an experiment 4 years ago and drop our speed down 15%. And we went from basically a zone upper two into 3 down to a zone 2. We're getting people to work more like 65 to 75% of their max. And in that way, they could get their posture upright. They could breathe fuller in their lungs. They could get their heads up and see and hear and start to be more mindfully attuned and embodied in their posture, but also attuned to the environment they're in. Then, as you know, we do, those of you that have come before, we do a body composition scan at the beginning of the week for those who want it, and again at the end of the week. And we were shocked at the end of the first year of slowing down, moving out of fitness trekking into flow hiking. We thought, oh no, what's going to happen to weight loss, fat loss, body percentage changes? And the measurements went up. We were more successful with body composition changes going slower than we were pushing everybody into a striving state. And what we realized is for the last previous 20-ish years, people were striving. And when people strive, basically cortisol goes up. And when cortisol goes up, the body does not readily release fat. It's worried about survival. So by down-tempoing the speed just a little bit, just enough to flow through the forest. It's not like we go, stop, take photos, go, stop, learn about trees. It's still flowing, but it's not charging ahead like we did for 20 years. The overall body composition changes went up, the stress levels went down, the happiness factors went way up, the embodiment and attunement to nature through the senses went way up, and our guests were much happier. And we've been doing that for the last 4 years, and we're holding to it. Now, group one is the only group that can't go faster. There's no group A1. So, of the four groups in the bell curve, group one tends to go into more of that upper level zone two, fitter, faster. But those people, if they want to go slower and flow hike, they can move backwards. Anyone in any group can slow down a little bit and go into a little bit slower group and get into that flow state. But no one can go past group one. So it is going a little bit faster than the other groups in terms of average cardiovascular output per person. Anything you want to add to that, Katja?
No, I think you covered that wonderfully. Yeah.
Kurt and Katja, could you go over our digital detox protocols, the usage of devices in public? Do we even have Wi-Fi? Uh,
Mhm.
can calls be made back to family? How does that all work?
Yeah, so we do request that all of our guests do not use their cell phones in public spaces, and we are pretty strict about that. So you're more than welcome to have your phone out to take a picture of the beautiful lake outside, or your food, or your buddies hiking. But whether it's in the car or in the lounge area, or especially on a hike, anywhere that there's other people, we really ask that people have their phones on airplane mode. Of course, you're welcome to use them in your rooms, and there's Wi-Fi through the whole lodge. So yeah, that's accessible, and calls can be made from your rooms and those kinds of things. And as long as we're respecting kind of sleep hours, always comes down to sleep. So we turn the Wi-Fi off at 10 p.m. and we turn it on at 6 a.m. And we do that because I know it's tempting to sit up and watch Netflix, but we really, such a huge part of our program is helping to promote healthy sleep patterns and sleep regulation and hygiene. And so we take that really seriously. And so we shut it all down and get people tucked into bed by 10, and then we're up doing it all again at 6 a.m. It's a full day, so most people are, to be honest, most people are shutting themselves down by before 10 o'clock because they're pretty pooped from the day of hiking and being outside and all of that. But yeah, and it's an important part of our program. I mean, most of us don't have spaces that are actually enforced sort of digital detox spaces. And so it's a real gift. I think it's people feel so much more relaxed, and by the end of the week themselves, because I think sometimes you really, it's so easy to underestimate the drain that having your phone constantly pinging on you is doing. And it's not just for us. It's like you might be with someone who has some huge deadline that's going to be looming at the end of the week, and if your phone's pinging off, they're not going to be able to enjoy the hike. They're going to be thinking about, oh, that reminds me of that phone call that I need to do with that deadline. So it's really about respecting everyone's experience of really dropping into the program. And we've done that for years, and it really, really works.
One of the things is people think that just looking at the photos they took on the hike is okay. So it's not content, because even if I'm swiping like this to look in the car at my photos and other people see this motion, it brings them back to social uh, media. It brings them back to thinking, like Katja said, about all the responsibilities back home. So it's absolutely no use of the phone, no matter what the content, in public other than for camera. And we are strict about it. Some people even give us their phones to put in our safe for the week because they know how compulsive it is for themselves. So it's really a great opportunity, like Katja says, to actually stay in presence rather than where the phone takes us into the future or the past or to other people's lives.
Mhm.
Okay, I've got two more questions and I think we'll sign off for the night.
Okay.
First question is, are we ever going to offer the turkey burner again?
No.
But you could come trekking with me.
Yeah, you can.
Yes, adventure trucks have taken over the turkey burner.
Yeah. Yeah, there was challenges with that, and of course with weather systems changing and global warming and all of those things happening. Um, we've just felt the time of year became more challenging to do the turkey burner with snow and all of that. And so what has become much more popular is our adventure treks. Now, if you've never been to Mountain Trek, you probably haven't heard about this because it's open at this time to alumni only. So you have to have come to the lodge in order to be in the know on those. And those are an amazing experience. I know there was a few of you here that were with me just recently on the beautiful island of Madeira in Portugal. So we usually do that once, sometimes twice a year. We do that in November typically, and typically February or March. And we go to different places around the world, and you can drink coffee the whole time on those. It's not
And
calorically
drink
restricted.
wine.
And wine. I wasn't going to mention that one, but yes, wine. And they're a chance for us to go and still be surrounded by the ethos of Mountain Trek and like-minded people who are really, committed to this lifestyle and want to have an active vacation, a movement-based vacation, but that celebrates the culture and the experience of where we are. So we're eating the food, we're drinking the wine, if that's something you partake in, and that kind of thing. So it's definitely a Mountain Trek light, fun version, but it's not a cakewalk. It's still very much an adventure trek. So that's something that we now do in the off season that's become a huge hit. So we're looking ahead to future treks already. Yeah. And Alex, you had one more for us?
Yeah, last question, and this question is specific for the Alpine Trekking Week. So for anyone that's interested in the regular program, this won't be relevant. But the question for that specific week is how high will the guests hike, and is there an acclimatization protocol needed?
The highest hike that we would probably take anybody would be up to close to 8,000 feet, and acclimatization is really when you get over 10. So our lake is at 2,000 feet roughly, the lodge is at 2,000 feet. So typically we'll drive up to those higher hikes to a starting point of 6,000 feet, and then we'll go, 2,000 to 2,500 feet above that for a couple of the highest ones.
Great, thank you. Any last questions from anyone that wants to jump in on their own?
I think I saw
No?
Tom ask a question about adventure treks in 2027. So we're looking and firming up plans right now to go to northern Patagonia, and we're looking at Bariloche in Argentina. So that is what we are gearing up for right now to work on, yeah, finalizing details on that.
So nice to see you all. Thank you all for
Thank you all
coming.
for joining. Really appreciate it.
Look forward to seeing you again at Mount Trek or on an adventure trek.
Hmm.
And if any questions pop up once you've signed off, feel free to email us info@mountaintrek.com or call. Thank you all for joining tonight. Good to see you all.